America has a carpenter problem. We've had a regular shortage as far back as the 1940s. In fact, there have only been two significant reprieves for construction as a whole since then, the 2008 Great Recession and the 2020 pandemic. But in 2022, as American home construction approaches pre-2008 levels, it's all coming to a head.
Don't be afraid of the dark, be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Don't let them rain on your spark. Keep it close to your heart. All of the pressure's gonna drive you crazy.
That was a report highlighting the fact that many trades are struggling to fill their ranks with American workers. While this seems like a labor issue, there may be something deeper at play here, something challenging our society. And today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, we want to bring up this issue and talk about how we can encourage young people as they consider college, career, and just simple interests. So let's turn now to Dr. Kathy Cook. So Dr. Kathy, the application rate for young people seeking technical jobs, jobs like plumbing, building, electrical work, there's some reports that show that that application rate has dropped by 49% in 2022 compared to 2020. You know, I don't really want to go on and kind of dad-splain anything here because dads kind of think about things in practical terms, that there's, you know, jobs that feed your family and these are important things to do. And so there's kind of like that approach that I think I naturally have. But when we hear this story, is there something that we should think about with it? Or is this just a trend that's going to continue on and we're just going to continue to bring in people into our country or kind of find other people that are going to do these technical jobs? Why is this something that we should be mindful of?
I love that you brought this up. I think it's a huge issue. I think it's extremely important. When I teach about the 8 smarts, I make sure to include the reality that everyone should be college worthy, but not everyone should go to college. We need people in the trades. We need these technical trade jobs of plumbing and electric and carpet laying and contracting and landscaping, all these kinds of things. And young people who are good with their hands, who are visually smart, who want to be movement, want to move a lot. Oh my goodness, these are perfect careers for them. And they're not for stupid people, if I can put it that way. I couldn't pass a plumbing exam to save my life. The apprenticeships that people have to go through in order to be licensed to be plumbers and electricians and all these kinds of things, people who work for the phone companies and even the cable systems, like it's a big deal. So let's honor them and let's say, hey, I want you to be content and I want you to be successful and purposeful. And frankly, Wayne, people who go into these trades will have less debt. Many of them, they will be paid very well. Many of them will have very good hours. And it's fulfilling. And one of the things we know from research from George Barna and others is that there's an entrepreneurial spirit with today's younger people. They want to go out on their own. And so again, these are opportunities for them to develop that side of who they are. And this is honoring work. And I'm angry sometimes, and I'm well educated. I haven't earned a PhD, but it doesn't make me smart. And it doesn't mean I'm smarter than others. It means I had a purpose that needed to be fulfilled and an advanced degree was necessary. Let's stop putting people like me on some platform that we don't deserve to be on. I hope that makes sense.
I love that because I have some friends who work in really professional careers. I don't know if you'd call them that, but they had to go to school for a long time to get the credentials and to learn how to do what they're doing. And they have a son that's my kid's age. And the son's come to be known as Farmer Eli. It's kind of fun. But he really loves farming. He really wants to go and be a farmer. And it's one of those things that's just kind of sprouted up amongst, like, as we've seen him grow. I pause for a minute because I question myself that, am I watching my kids well enough to know almost what they're good at? So you talk about the 8 grade smarts. And for me, I think that sometimes I don't know if I pause long enough or even maybe have the tools in my belt to understand or discern what my kids are good at, to say if they should pursue a career in this field or pursue school or these different things. I think I'm just kind of in that mode of where I'm just saying, go to school and do well. And maybe your teachers will help you kind of figure that out. But I'd love to step more into that. So can you give me some perspective or some tips on how can I in this mode of where my kids are at, be attentive to what they're good at? What are the things that I should be watching for? And then how can I kind of encourage them in that?
Yeah, I love that. What do they do in their spare time is one thing to look at, because we tend to not do things in our spare time that we don't enjoy doing and that we're not good at. So when your children have spare time on a weekend or on an evening, what do? Do they read? Do they color? Do they play with their dog? Do they talk to a friend? Do they research? What do they do in their spare time? Certainly, where are their strengths? If they're in a school, do they earn an A in English and not in math? You can certainly pay attention to grades and to what teachers tell you. And look for joy. Look for joy. If you homeschool your kids, if you send your kids off to school, what do they talk about when they do talk with you? And where do they light up? And when do they light up? When it's about art and music, or when it's about problem solving in math, when it's about the fact that they studied a researcher in science and they got really interested in that. And then, and then ask them. I think some of us can just directly ask our kids, if you were to list 5 strengths that you have today, what would they be? And hopefully character would be on the list. It's not just about skills, because somebody can be really good at skills, but with a bad heart, I wouldn't hire them. But give me somebody with a great heart and I can teach them the skill set. So look for their character and their passion and their purpose, not just their skill set. And the other thing I would say to that, Wayne, is that some of us need to understand the variety of careers that are out there. Many of us don't realize, in fact, this is a frightening statement, but many of the kids who are in high school today will work a job that doesn't yet exist. That's because of the speed of our cultural change. And so there are certain careers, teaching and accounting and truck driving and being a doctor. I mean, there's certain things, obviously, that are going to stay around. There's a lot of things that don't exist yet that your kids may be able to pursue with great passion and purpose. So it can't just be about name the career. It has to be about, again, values and purpose and passion and kind of the collective nature of your kids. So introduce them to new ideas, introduce them to new people, invite somebody new over to lunch that has a career that you don't know much about, and let your kids know. Start making college visits when they're younger than you think you need to. If you feel college is in your kids' plan, give them a vision for that. Go to a college concert, go to a college basketball game. Get them, if they're homeschooled, get them on the campus. If they're in a middle school and they think school is boring, see if they can go and visit the high school tech program and give them a new vision for their future. Because kids don't know what they don't know, and we can help them discover the future can be so bright and can be so different. School will one day end, and life continues on. That gives kids great hope who don't like school.
I think a lot of the interests that my kids have are kind of interests that we have, my wife and I have. And we kind of have fostered that in our family. The loves that we have, they've kind of developed and found love in. And I think with that too, then there's maybe a tendency for me as a parent to place this pride or this joy kind of on my kids when I see them do something that I love, playing the guitar or going out and playing basketball with me, or these different things that I can kind of place this level maybe of expectation of like, hey, you're going to practice more basketball so that you can shoot like me or whatever. You're going to go and you're going to pursue maybe this career line because I find joy and pride in that. Is there a place for parents to kind of have a healthy joy and pride in our kids? I know obviously there's a place where we get into it where it's unhealthy, where we kind of push our kids or we have these high expectations for them and they try to reach that. But how can I be kind of healthily? How can I have healthy pride in my kids and what they're interested in?
God ordains the family. You're the perfectly imperfect parents for your kids, and they're perfectly imperfect children for you. And one of the things that happens in a family unit is shared values and shared passions and shared skills. I look back on my life. My grandfather was mayor of my city, and I sat and I watched him give speeches. And hello, today I make a living as a public speaker and an author. And so we can look back and see that we were inspired by family members and by others as well. So I'm not surprised to hear that your children will begin to develop some of the same interests and curiosities, passions, and concerns that you and your wife have. What's dangerous is expecting them to be like us when they may not be. They're created in God's image and not ours. And, I've met parents who, as an example, a dad who wanted to play basketball desperately and didn't have the skill set or the opportunity, so he makes his son play basketball. because he's trying to relive his childhood through his son. That's dangerous. Now, if your kid wants to play basketball and finds joy there, go for it. Go sit and cheer, absolutely. But look for contentment. Look for contentment. Look for a good fit. And remember that they're individuals. And so it's okay if one child likes reading and one doesn't. It's absolutely okay. Doesn't mean you stop reading with that kid, but it's okay if there are differences. Those are great questions. I hope people will be thinking about that.
Those are some really great words from Dr. Kathy today. And as we turn now to our time in Scripture, we want to focus on maybe some lesser known passages and trends inside of what happens in Scripture. And today we're actually turning to 1 Chronicles. And the passage that we're going to look at is 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verses 11 to 13. The background for these verses is that the Lord has opened now this opportunity for David to propel the building of their tabernacle. And he's doing it through his son Solomon. And David's giving some words of encouragement to Solomon. And at this time, the Lord brings up and equips his people to stand into a place with skills and talents to be able to execute this task at hand. God does this many times throughout Scripture. But this passage in 1 Chronicles, that especially highlights what we talked about today. And this is what David says to Solomon in 1 Chronicles. Now, my son, the Lord be with you, and may you have success and build the house of the Lord your God, as he said you would. May the Lord give you discretion and understanding when he puts you in command over Israel, so that you may keep the law of the Lord your God. Then you will have success if you are careful to observe the decrees and the laws that the Lord gave Israel. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged. I have taken great pains to provide for the temple of the Lord 100,000 talents of gold, 1,000,000 talents of silver, quantities of bronze and iron too great to be weighed, and wood and stone. And you may add to them. You have many workers, stone cutters, masons, and carpenters, as well as those skilled in every kind of work, in gold and silver, in bronze and iron, craftsmen beyond number. Now begin the work, and the Lord be with you. This is an encouraging call that David gave to Solomon in Scripture, and it's an encouragement that I believe we also have from the Lord, that he has equipped us in this time and place to raise up people who are skilled in the work that he is calling us to do. And he has given us resources to now establish and build these places where these skilled craftsmen that we're training can execute on the talents that the Lord has given them. And we hope that that's an encouragement for you. You are a light in the darkness, and you are training workers to go out into the work field to participate in God's grand story. And if this podcast has been an encouragement to you, share it with your friends. And if you have a minute, leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. For Celebrate Kids and Dr. Kathy Cook, my name's Wayne Stender, and I want to say thank you for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.